Golf Podcast, presented by Golficity, where we bring you the tips, instruction, and support you need to get the most out of your golf game. And now your hosts, Frank and Mike.
Hey everybody, this is episode number 182 of the Golf Podcast, and we're going to be talking about 4 keys to just a killer putting stroke. A couple of things that I've been working on myself. It's taken some time, but it is starting to pay off, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I played over the weekend, and my putting stats have finally kind of turned the corner and gotten a little bit better. So that's huge. We're also going to talk about wrapping up the Golficity Virtual Open and who our winners were there, and how, if you were one of the winners, how you can claim your prize. Mike and I were going to be at the Northern Trust this week. So we're going to be filming a vlog episode down there. So stay tuned to for that on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. I also got some really cool stuff from some listeners that I want to go over and talk about my story about my closest ever to a personal hole-in-one. I've never had one, but I was close this weekend, Mike. So
awesome.
Close.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, really cool stuff. But first I want to talk about our friends over at nakedwines.com. Okay, so you've heard us talk about them before. It is one of my favorite subscription services. And the reason they can bring us such great tasting wine at such low prices is because Naked Wines funds winemakers directly. And it removes a huge chunk of the cost that would typically be passed on to us in that liquor store. And I'm talking big savings, like 60%. And some of these wines, you're going to taste them and you're not going to believe the price you're getting them for. And they are so tailored to your taste. You tell them a little bit about what you like, and just a case of wine shows up at your door, and every one of them's perfect. And Mike, really kind of a cool story. Just this weekend, my wife was going, she's been home on maternity leave. So we haven't had time to go out and do any shopping or anything like that. So it's just nice that the wine shows up at the door. But
right.
Anyway, she was heading out to a retirement party, just a backyard, just like a fun get together, barbecue, whatever. And she's like, oh, I don't want to go empty handed. I haven't had time to shop. I'm like, I just go over to, my wine rack and just grab one of those bottles. And I'm like, bring this, right? Mm-hmm. So she brings one of the bottles from Naked Wines. Needless to say, it was a hit. Everyone's asking about it. Where can I get this? And they kind of like see it. And what's so cool with Naked Wines, the story is right on every bottle. And they talk about how their angel investors fund the wines. And these winemakers finally get to make the wines that they wanted to make because they're able to be funded directly. So cool story, stuff like that. And then on top of that, my wife just tells them, check them out at nakedwines.com. And they can't believe how cheap it ends up being. So really cool stuff, Mike.
Yeah, and the proof is there. I mean, these guys have racked up 2 million customer reviews. So definitely try these guys. Check them out. Naked Wines. You can get $100 off your first order. Yes, I said that right. $100 off their already low price wine right now. Nakedwines.com will ship an entire case, get this, of 12 bottles, hand selected just for you, for only $79. Okay, you can't beat that in any liquor store. So visit nakedwines.com/golf to claim your offer. That's nakedwines.com/golf. All right, Frank. I'm not sure if you saw my post the other day on Instagram. I was having some fun with Sudden Coffee. I'm a coffee freak. I love coffee. I always talk about it. I need it. I mean, you'll see how many coffees I'll be drinking tomorrow at the Northern Trust Open. But, for convenience, I just need great coffee on the go. And I was kind of ranting about this last week, that when I play golf, I need my iced coffee, and I can never seem to get it out there. Unless I bring it, stop. But who has time for it? You got to check out Sudden Coffee. I mean, the thing about instant coffee is we don't really like the taste, right? I mean, not many of us desire instant coffee, but what's great about Sudden Coffee, it's instant coffee with the taste of a regular brewed coffee. Now, how's that for convenience, right?
Yeah, man. I'm so glad somebody finally worked the formula out so you can get good coffee fast. So instant, it always sounds like a great idea, but in practice, it never works out. Not with these guys. They've got it nailed. And talk about convenience. I mean, now you can just grab a great cup of coffee. You can literally have it anywhere. You just mix Sudden Coffee with either hot water, ice water, milk, even bourbon. If you want to get a little crazy, you name it. Sudden is high quality instant coffee delivered. Their latest blend is inspired by golf, and it makes a mean cup of iced coffee on the go, like Mike said. So now you can get an 8-pack for just $19, and don't forget your discount code GOLF for 25% off your first order. So check out suddencoffee.com today. So Mike, we just wrapped up the virtual open. What was it? 2 weeks ago. So I posted something in the Facebook group and I posted on 18 birdies. Make sure if you played in our open, go to golficity.com/open. We posted all of the final prize winners there, and there's instructions on how you claim your prize, because we do need you to get in touch with us. With 18 birdies, we don't have a way to contact you. I know I talked to the guys over there. They're working on getting some direct messaging and stuff going. But in the interim, we have some instructions on how you can email us and claim your prize. I think out of the 30 prizes, we've got about 20 claimed so far. So everybody who participated, that's so cool. It's awesome. And what I've really been happy with is the honesty. I know there's some people who shot some very low scores, and some people were upset with that. One guy had just, mistakenly entered it the wrong way. Nothing sinister there. We talked to him about it. Unfortunately, we had to disqualify his round. And another guy who actually came in first place was cool enough to email us and say, I just don't feel right taking it. I got to come forward and say, something screwed up. When I entered my handicap, it was way too high. And I guess just getting used to the app, he had done something wrong. And he's like, I just wouldn't feel right taking that prize. So I love that when you see people who have they're just like honest. So I'm like, you know what, man, I appreciate the honesty. We'll send something your way just for being honest. And then we rework the board in order to make sure that everybody's in there. So definitely check that out. And the other biggest question that I've been having is people asking, when are we doing the next one? Well, we're working on it. Right now we're targeting spring next year. We're obviously, the big thing is coordinating all of the sponsors to get you guys prizes. We're also trying to learn from the way this one was structured. And I know 18 Birdies is rolling out some new features that we want to use. We want to run the next one a little bit differently. And we're even thinking about running small ones here and there. So really cool stuff. Best way to stay on top of this, join the Facebook group. Just go on Facebook, search the Golf Podcast. You'll see our free group pop up. We always like to mention stuff there. We keep you posted with links and things like that. So that's a really important thing to do. But it was a blast. Overall, big success. I think, Mike, we had over 300 participants. Yeah. Which is pretty big. Really cool stuff. And 18 Birdies has been really awesome. Like anything we ask, they're trying to help out wherever they can. So that's a big thing. Switching gears real quick. So we're headed to the Northern Trust. Yeah. And then in a month or so, we're heading down to the President's Cup. We haven't been to any PGA Tour events this year yet. So I'm excited. I just like to get out there and just see the guys play, Yeah.
I mean, of course we had the tees when we played, TPC River Highlands about a week before they came to town. I mean, it was empty, but now we get to see it filled up with fans. I mean, this is like my Christmas. I was just telling my wife this over dinner. I was like, tomorrow's actually my wife's birthday, but I said tomorrow's my Christmas because, we get to kind of hang out amongst the pros for like a full day inside the ropes, just walking amongst them and kind of talking with a few of them and watching them play. Of course, we always talk about that, how great it is to see these guys play, these freaks of nature really hit the ball. It's amazing. But dude, I'm excited. And the course looks unbelievably incredible for an August day in Long Island, New York.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
And hopefully everybody's following us along on Snapchat and Instagram, because we're going to be posting a story there. That's all at Golficity. Just search Golficity, you'll find us. And we're also going to be posting another vlog episode on YouTube, so check that out. But Mike, yeah. So after we book that, I jump on my calendar and just go to put it in. I'm like, oh no. I see it's your wife's birthday. And I'm like, does this guy know that we booked a day on the road all day in Long Island on his wife's birthday? And and you're like, yeah, man, I know.
I got approval. I got approval first.
He's like, I'm taking her out to dinner when I get home.
Right, exactly.
So that's too funny. Yeah. I was worried at first. I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't know it's his wife's birthday. What are we going to do?
I know. Sure enough.
But I'm with you. I love it. In the past, we've done like episodes from when it was then called the Barclays, full episodes and things like that. This year, I think we're doing it even better. We're traveling real light, just the point and shoot cameras. We're just going to do that vlog episode and some social stuff. That way we can kind of like sink in and really enjoy it. Because before, we're working on setting up equipment and recording the podcast. We're just going to get in there, have a good time. I'm interested to check out this track. It looks beautiful from what I've been seeing on social so far. So I'm excited for that, and definitely check it out. And we'll post some stuff in the Facebook group as well. Speaking of the Facebook group, I got a cool email from one of our fans, one of our listeners, who I've been in touch with him regularly for quite some time. He first emailed me a while back, fan of the show, and he helped set up the interview we had with Dr. Joseph Parent, the author of Zen Golf. He took it upon himself, reached out to him, and got the whole wheels in motion. So that was really cool. But his name is Will Selman. He's a doctor, and he came up with like something that was a really good kind of a thought. We talked about stretching and flexibility the last episode. And one thing that can be important with that, and I hadn't really even thought about this, and what Will said was that when you're, let's say like you're a righty golfer, which you don't realize is over many, many years of making that same motion, like righty, you can kind of end up being a little bit lopsided in your stretching. If I can put it kind of that way. So what he suggested, which is kind of a good idea. He said the same thing happens with baseball players because they're, always swinging the same way. He says a very good, smart practice is just every once in a while, just like buy like one lefty club and just like a 7-iron. And you may look funny at first, but every once in a while, he likes to hit some balls lefty on the range just to kind of even everything out. And he said you'd be surprised at how much it's helped his regular golf swing, righty, just taking cuts lefty every once in a while. So I had never thought about that before. And I'm like, that's really a kind of a cool idea.
It's interesting. I've never actually thought about it. I mean, you see a lot of these PGA pros who they try to attempt lefty and they're pretty darn good at it. You know what I mean? But I never actually thought to try it lefty from the sake of getting better.
He says, one small thing I can add about that episode, he's like, golf, like baseball, is a sport where you're endlessly corkscrewing yourself in one direction for decades. So he said, something I've been doing at the range and I've recommended to a fair number of my golfing patients with, back and flexibility issues is to hit balls with a left-handed iron periodically. And he says, I can't say I look like Phil yet, but it's amazing how much flexibility and rotational improvement it has, had for his real swing. And he said it also helps stretch out your back and offsets the negative effects of unidirectional corkscrewing. So that's kind of cool. That's a cool idea. I never thought of that. And then I said that, I'm like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to look like, I don't know what, hitting lefty. I don't know if I could swing even lefty, but I'm going to try it. It sounds
I want to see this.
Kind of crazy. But and speaking of that, you've got me totally motivated. So Mike stopped by, over the weekend, visited with the family, and I'm like, yo, while we're here, just run down to my gym real quick, because Mike's like our resident like health nut, right? And I'm like, I want to get into what you're doing, and I'm all this like kind of like circuit training and stuff like that, and I'm like, show me what I can do at my gym here. So you gave me a couple exercises. Man, it's tough.
Yeah.
I got down there today. I jogged down to the gym. I did it. I tried to put like a 15-20 minute workout in. I try not to push it too much because we're going to be walking, on our feet all day tomorrow at the Northern Trust. And I don't want you to be dragging me. But, I'll tell you what, this one thing that it has shown me, I used to, like in college, like I said, I weightlifted a lot, right? So for me, cardio and weightlifting were always two completely separate things. So when I would be like cardio days where I'd just run, and then I'd have like weightlifting days where I was just weightlifting. But I've never done anything like this where it's kind of combined. So you're showing me how to like weightlift and like strength train while keeping my heart rate up. And man,
exactly.
It'll kick your, what?
Yeah, man, for sure. And it's like I've always said, and I've been saying, it's worked wonders for me. So tell me, 20 minutes. I mean, did you feel satisfied with that workout when you were done?
I was huffing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I know I'm not fit yet. Like, so, I mean, it's going to take time and I'm probably really quickly getting out of breath, but I put together, I think 6 or 7 different things, and I just work my way through, and I'm just like trying to like figure out how to do it with that circuit, like keep moving. But I tell you what, I see where we always joke around with you with the egg whites and chicken,
right?
But I see where the nutrition comes in. Cause this is the kind of the one thing I learned from today. I worked out at like 6 a.m, right? And around 5, 6 o'clock later in the day, I noticed like I was like ridiculously hungry, like more than ever before. My legs feel like weak, like a little bit like, and I feel like this craving for like a lot of food. So I guess, is that my like muscles like
that's it? You gotta feed the beast. So you're breaking the proteins down. You're working out. I eat right after I work out. I mean, you're going through that feeling. That's actually a really good feeling. So, I always tell people who are trying to kind of mimic the diet that I'm doing that if you're going to do these kind of high heart rate strength activities, make sure you quote unquote feed the beast, get yourself that protein back so you can recover faster. Because if you're going to be doing it a few days a week, you want to be able to recover. I mean, today marked 6 days in a row that I went to this high circuit in 6 days in a row. I haven't done that in so long. The guys at the gym were like, Mike, you can't come tomorrow. I'm like, don't worry, I'm not coming tomorrow anyway. They're like, they told me to stay away. So, I'm excited you're doing it. And I love that 20 to 25 minutes, you feel satisfied. Soon you're going to be able to get that up to 30 to 35. But honestly, that's all you need. Once you get there, there's no need to work out any longer than that.
Because it's so intense. You know what? I think that's a good idea. We should probably get like a nutritionist or someone on the show at some point for anybody else who's interested in this. Because the other thing that I'm noticing is I think my body's like, just like, what are you doing to me? It's like not ready for it. Because I noticed that when I was feeling that, I was craving sugar. And I think my body's craving the wrong thing. Like it wants like the slower burning like fats and proteins, but it was like needed that instant gratification. Like for some reason I was just craving some sort of sugar. So I think, who knows, maybe I also had my sugar dropped a little bit, but I think it's an interesting thing and you learn a lot about yourself trying this out. So I'm excited on this path. I'm going to try, 6 days is nuts. I'm going to try to do 2 or 3 days a week and see where that takes me.
Yeah, it's a good start, and I applaud you for doing it. And in fact, I'd love to bring my nutritionist on the show. He's the guy who got me in the shape that I'm in, and he will blow your mind with what you need to do as far as nutrition.
I think we got to check that out. We got to check that out. Let's book him. Let's get him on the show because that's going to be a cool one. And then just kind of, I know we're switching gears between a lot of stuff, and I try to hit on as much as we can because a lot happens in a week, but I try to hit on as much as we can and keep us in that 30-minute time frame. Most of you guys out there listening say like keep the shows to 30 minutes because most of you are commuting, but I just want to quickly mention my almost hole-in-one. So I'm playing this past weekend and it's on the 16th hole, Mike. That kind of like chip shot. It plays anywhere from, depending on pin position,
120, 130,
120 up to 140 max back right pin position. So it was up tight. It was close. And I think it was playing about 115. So that's less than a pitching wedge for me, but really more than my 52. So what I did was I hit my pitching wedge just kind of like nice and easy, just easy, soft, 75% type of thing. Right. And I had a great ball flight. I think I posted the picture. I think I posted it on our Instagram account and, it's just like, it was so online. It landed 1 foot short of the hole. And I don't know whether to be happy about it, but cause I don't usually get that really like pro level backspin, and it hit there and immediately spun back and ended up back about 3 feet.
One time you didn't want it.
One time, right? Any other time, this thing hops forward. It hits that pin and it's just a chance, whether it drops or not, but it just stopped and hopped back. So I'm like, hey, it looked awesome. And it was a tap in bird, but, really kind of cool. And in fact, I hope anybody who did follow along, because I was running the Instagram account, the story that day, and I was playing with my father. And this guy, dude, I can't beat him no matter what I do. It's ridiculous. He's got 30 years on me in age. And even the one, I gotta laugh if you check this out. He's all sorts of back problems. You see him make fun of me about how he outdrove me. Cause the one hole that I thought I hit a bomb, all of a sudden, he connects with one too. And he's sneaky. He always tells you, I don't got the distance anymore. Right? Yeah. Okay. Right. Then play with him. Right. And then he's like, I gotcha. And he got me on that hole. And again, he goes out there and he shoots 73, 74. You know what I mean? I can't.
So consistent.
He's so consistent. I can't beat him, and it's just like I knock on the door every once in a while, but the guy's good. What can I say?
Yeah, what can you say?
But anyway, all right, let's do a quick word from our sponsor because I've got a bunch of stuff here. We got 4 solid tips that we can cover for how you guys can really get your putting stroke honed in. So let's do a word from our sponsor, then I want to jump into it. Hey guys, when it's too hard to fit 18 holes into your busy life and schedule, 9-hole golf is the way to go. You can still get out there, play golf without compromising any of your other commitments. The important thing to remember is that you're still playing golf. Remember that. Fit 9 holes into any short time frame. It could be between chores, after work, before you go out for the evening. whenever. 9 holes of golf always counts towards your handicap, and you can enter it towards your GHIN. And it's a great way to introduce someone who's less experienced to golf into the game. Not to mention, many facilities offer 9-hole rounds and rates, so you can enjoy the game at a reduced price.
Yeah, check out all the options to play in your area by going to usga.org/play9 today. That's usga.org/play9. Hey, how's your short game?
So, Mike, speaking of short game, putting stroke, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I always thought I had a decent putting stroke. And now when I go back and look at what I was doing, I can immediately spot the error. It was ever since actually we took that quick putting lesson down at that 18 birdies event. And we're about 2 months from then. So I'm about 2 months in working on this stroke, and I feel like it's finally clicking, right? So one thing before we get into anything, I want to tell people, if you're going to make some changes, and it could be changes in the right direction and make improvements, you got to understand that it's going to take some time. Like anything, it's going to take some time for everything to adjust to those changes. Biggest thing we always say with golf is, with putting, is getting the speed right. And I notice when you change certain things, it can be harder to get that speed right, because you're changing the feel a little bit. But as long as if it's the right thing and if it's the right change, work your way through it, because the end result is going to be something that's going to be much improved over the long term. So I will get into, actually, it's perfect, because the very first point I want to make of exactly what I was doing wrong. And there's, like I said, there's 4 points I want to cover tonight, but the first one is eye control. And, you hear that standard old golf tip where people say, it's important to keep your head down. That's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily right either. Your head really has nothing or not much to do with it, other than the fact that it's what holds your eyes in your skull. But
right.
Your eyes are what matter. Okay. If you're going to, control your putting stroke and have that consistent mechanics, you need to know how to control your eyes and how they behave during the putting stroke. Because the other thing is, eyes can lead to other areas too. And there's one other thing we're going to mention in a minute. We're going to talk kind of about building your base. And I think your base and your legs and everything else kind of follow your eyes to a certain extent. So what we mean by that, like, what exactly should your eyes be doing? The idea is nothing really. The eyes should always be looking down at the ball through the stroke. But the thing is, that's easier said than done. And you may think you're doing it. The way I finally discovered some of the hitches in my putting stroke was just finally filming myself. And it's funny because the putting instructor who's out there, he's like, just grabbed his iPhone camera. He's like, watch this. He filmed me. And then he's like, when you see it played back, you see it. So have like a buddy get out there and just like, same thing, just throw him your phone, be like, yo, film my putting stroke for a second, and then just putt like normal. And then you can go back and kind of decompress it. But the 2 most common mistakes with eye movement during the putting stroke is following that putter head back and away from the ball. Or the other thing is looking up too early at the hole before you actually hit the putt. And either one can really ruin a good stroke. So to work on your eye control, there's a couple of things you can do. Some people like this idea of just drawing something very specific on your golf ball, something easy to see. I actually just like to use whatever lines are already on the ball. With the Callaways I play on the side, it's kind of like, it says chrome soft and it's kind of got the arrows. I use that, and I also use that for aligning, the direction of the putt. But what you can do is use that as a point to kind of like keep your eyes locked onto as you go through that putting stroke. And you don't want to like look up until after that ball is sent on its way. So what this particular coach taught me, and he used it by just kind of like grabbing me by the top of the head and physically holding my head down. Because what I was doing was, as I was making contact, Mike, I was moving my head kind of with the putting stroke and looking at the hole as I was going. And what he did is just by holding it down, he's like, it's kind of like this rhythm. It's like, stroke. It's like connect, then look. And if you watch the guys on the PGA Tour, you'll see that. Like, watch Jordan Spieth, right? He's on fire right now. If you want anybody who's like a perfect example of great putting, it's him. And you'll see he makes contact, and then it's like just that hair of a moment later, then he looks up, he looks towards the ball, just turns his head, right? And you can kind of visualize that. That's so key. And that's exactly the opposite of what I was doing. So I've been working on that, and it really does take time to break that bad habit because it's such a subconscious motion. So it is a habit. It's a bad habit, and you got to work, but you can work on it even like in your office. You know, while you're on the phone, you know, you can just kind of look down and just make that putting stroking, keep the head down, and then practice turning and looking at the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's huge, and that's helped me big time. In fact, at the 18 Birdies media event where that old PGA pro gave me the tip, he said, you have a great putting stroke, but listen, you have to keep your head down until the ball leaves the club, exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
And I nailed the $15,000 putt like
right.
30 minutes later.
There's your proof.
You know, and I've been using that technique, you know, ever since out on the course, and it's been a home run. It really has. My lag game, everything has just been so consistent. The feel of my putts has been really, really great as a result of that. So that's a solid one. It's
so important, and it does lead into other things. And here I'll kind of just jump around a little bit and talk about another important one, which is building your base. The other thing he showed me is that your base, you know, from your hips down need to stay, as he put it, like in concrete. Don't move them. And you start by just taking a very athletic stance. I think some people take a very lazy putting stance, some amateur golfers. You want to take that athletic, you know, stance. We talked about that before in like the Tathata golf stuff. And that kind of has been a help there as well. And which, by the way, they're still really great. They're offering a discount to all of our listeners. If you just go to tathatagolf.com/golficity, you immediately get 10% off. $10 off, which is, if you're thinking about doing it, check it out. I know there's some people in the Facebook group who've been trying it, and they've been liking it so far. And you can ask them for feedback too. Just post it in the group. But anyway, what I noticed was, as part of the eyes, and then I started to look at my swing, not only were my eyes kind of like turning, my whole body, and you could see it in my knees, was rotating towards the cup as I would make contact. So in other words, I was almost using my whole body to help the putt along. Does that make sense? Like, you see me just like almost like pushing it. And what that resulted in is pushing, for a righty like myself, pushing a lot of putts left because I was helping it along. So the adjustment, like we talked about before, where the adjustment came in, is that kind of helping it along movement was giving it a little more oomph. So I noticed when I switched over to keeping a solid in concrete, so to speak, base, my putts were much more on line because I wasn't pushing them left, but a lot of them were coming up short because I wasn't taking enough of a stroke. Before, I added that little extra oomph with this turn. I was turning my hips. I was turning everything. I was almost doing like like an iron stroke in a way, like, you know, when you like the hips fire, but obviously on a very miniature basis, but they would all kind of turn.
I have to see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. Like, I even looked back at just from earlier in the summer, some earlier vlog episodes, like when we played TPC River Highlands, I look at some of those putts I was hitting, and I was doing it there, and you could see my lower body turn. And I'm like kicking myself. I like cringe when I watch it because I'm like, how did I not see that I was doing that wrong? So this is a big thing. You know, in addition to keeping those eyes steady, build that solid base, that solid foundation. Just get into a comfortable athletic position. And then the best thing to do is just focus on, you know, your knees, keeping them in the exact same position that they start in. So as long as your knees don't move, you'll know that your legs are staying steady. Now, that's a good visualization if it works for you. My visualization in the last swing thought, so to speak, putt thought, maybe you want to call it, before I putt, is just that I just say concrete, you know, in my mind. And I just think of my waist down is frozen, like it is not going anywhere. And then I'm able to just do better that pendulum motion up top. So those two things work so hand in hand. And I know you've been working on that too, because it was the same type of problem, right?
Dude, I'm all about that base. I'll tell you right now. This is my favorite. This is my favorite tip of the four, because I've developed, I think over the last like 5 or 6 rounds, I've developed a really solid pre-shot routine for putting, and I've stuck with it. I've been so consistent with it. And basically it just comes down to lining up my ball and then just lining up my club to hit where the ball, you know, to the target I want to go to with both my feet together. Once I have my target aligned, I will then create that base, spread my legs apart to the proper distance that I feel is good for this length of putt. Mm-hmm. And I will take a huge deep breath, look at the target, back to the ball, keep the head down, and put the ball down, you know, hit it. So, you know, I've been so consistent with it, and I've noticed that the pre-shot routine is what keeps me consistent with having that awesome base to do the things that you just mentioned.
No doubt. And what you said with that breath is so clutch too, because you do not want to be having, carrying tension in your muscles when you're putting, of all things, because that's when you start to get that really like jerky putting stroke rather than something nice and smooth. So I like to do the same thing. Take a deep breath, relax in the arms, forearms, shoulders, and then just do that nice smooth stroke. So that's a big one. Another area where a lot of, amateur golfers go wrong is the backstroke in their putt. Very often we see backstrokes that are just too long. And the fact of the matter is there's no need for, most of the time there's no need to take a very long backstroke. You can generate a lot of power even in a short little spot. And the problem with it is that, with a backstroke too long, you're going to pay that price, and it's going to end up being more variables for error and things like that. So one good thing you can do to practice this is very simply just try setting up a line of tees that kind of help you limit your backswing on your putt. And then just drop a few balls on the putting green about 5 feet from the hole, set up to hit your first putt, but, don't roll the ball just yet. Instead, just, reach down, place a few tees into the green, just a few inches behind your putter head, and then make your stroke and try to hole out, those putts without hitting the tees. And if you can do that, you can see how you can tighten up your stroke and limit your backstroke, and you can learn really quickly from doing that. It requires very little backstroke to get the ball started rolling. Now, the only detriment to this is make sure you're not slapping at it, or, cause that happens a lot where people punch at it or slap at it. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get into that wrist popping action. You still want to take your stroke, but with putting, you can generate a lot of power without a big backswing. And again, I always refer to this. Turn on the PGA Tour on Sunday, watch those guys. They're not taking huge long backstrokes, because when you start to do that, like I said, you can introduce a lot of other factors of possible error. So give it a try. See how it feels for you. Get on the putting green and work it in. And then another big thing, and this is something you and I have definitely talked about before, and when a good putter, when you see him, is one who has their speed consistently right. Speed is one of the biggest areas I've had of focus, because if the speed's right, that second putt is going to be a tap in. If it's wrong, it can go so wrong. Break is going to obviously play a factor, but not as much as speed does. And speed will also factor in the break, and then it'll take some of the break out or add more break in. So speed control, it's so important. So a couple things that come into play with that. One is feel. We talked about before warming up, and we've talked about how a couple different things to do on the practice green, hitting a couple lag putts, getting a feel for the general speed that day, and then that feel you develop with playing the game more. But another really important factor in speed control is making quality contact with the ball on every putt. So if you're able to hit that sweet spot with your stroke, you'll be able to predict accurately how far the ball is going to roll out. Where a lot of people fall off is when they start to have those mishits, and they're not quite hitting the same spot on their putter every time. And when they do that, they're varying the speed too much. So you could have the exact same speed of your stroke, just hitting different areas on that putting face is going to cause you to have, could be very dramatic differences in speed, in overall speed of the putt. So like if you strike that putt off the heel or the toe, you're likely to come up short. So, we talk about feel, but really it comes down to hitting that center of that putter every time. So what do we do to make that better? The good old gate drill. I think that's one of the most important things. We see us practicing it often. If we post some videos, you and I know you got like your 4-year-old daughter out there even practicing some putting. So this is a great one. You just set that putter down, stick a tee in the ground on each side of it. And then as you putt, just try to bring that club through that gate, so to speak, without hitting either one of those. And that'll help keep that putter on line and hitting that sweet spot. Some people also like to put a couple rubber bands, or I think they even sell like cheap on Amazon, little devices that clip right on your putter. And they're just basically act as rails just outside of the sweet spot. So if you don't hit your sweet spot, the ball ends up hitting those rubber bands or rails or whatever, and it's instant feedback. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but it's all about getting that feel down and just each time doing it. I think the ones like the dead aim putter, I think is one of the practice tools. If let's see, even that's still around. Yeah. We did a review on that a while back. And that's just kind of give a visual feedback, and you can kind of see where that sweet spot is. And that one even has like a laser that lines you up.
Yeah.
So cool for whatever. It's a little Caddyshack-ish if you try to use it out there.
Yeah, but, and speaking of my 4-year-old, I've been trying to work on that on feel with her. It's so hard because for a 4-year-old, they either blast the ball by the hole or they hit it like 2 feet in front of them.
Yeah.
So she's trying to understand the concept of that soft, lag to the hole. So I'm like, how do I teach a 4-year-old feel? I'm trying to come up with all different ideas. Like they say, cut a hula hoop in half and just like put that, that piece on the opposite side of the hole and say, just keep it within this area. Mm-hmm. Like don't hit the hoop, things like that. Or get one of the flat round hoops that are flat to the ground, which just put it in the circle, don't even worry about the hole. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but I took her to the course the other day, Frank. I didn't even really let her hit many balls I hit her like 4 balls on the range. I'm like, Dad's got to work on his fades and draws. All right, sit down and wait a little bit. I was like, because I don't even care about that with her right now. I just take her up to the putting green. I'm like, let's just do this we did it for like 30 minutes, and she did not want to go home. And it was epic. But you know what? You always get those guys, and it's starting to get annoying now, where they walk by and they're like, "Hey man, start him young, start him young." Right. I'm like, yeah, buddy, you're right. Yeah, But no, it's cool. It's cool. You'll be there pretty soon.
Get a T-shirt that just says "Start 'em young."
Yeah, exactly right. But I might get arrested for that. I don't know.
Well, that's true too. Maybe don't wear that. Don't wear that to the mall. Or anything.
I know. Right. Come on.
But anyway, no, I think one thing that you're right about, it's like with kids too, especially if you can develop some sort of game, that's what really keeps them interested in wanting to do it. So I love that gate drill, even for her. Just telling her, just try to swing, your putter between those 2 gates, those 2 tees, or the other one we talked about with taking it back too far and setting one up. Like try to get this all the way to the hole without hitting that tee. So those games, not only do they work for us as physical feedback training aids, but we've had episodes before we talk about a lot of guys out there guys and gals getting their kids into the game. Well, this is one way to do it. Start on the practice green, start with fun little games, and then that'll keep them, they don't even realize they're practicing.
Right.
They think they're out there having a fun little game. So really cool stuff. But anyway, that's it. Check those out. And remember, eye control, keeping those eyes on the ball until it releases towards the hole. Then you can turn your head, limiting that backstroke. And you can, like I said, you can generate a lot of power without having to take a huge backstroke. Consistent speed, which is attained from hitting that sweet spot every time. Practice hitting that sweet spot. Take out that variable of hitting it all over the putter face, and that base. You got to have that nice athletic base that just stays put throughout that putting stroke. You do those 4 things and you're going to have a very, very good putting stroke, and you're going to see dramatic improvements in consistency. I've seen it. I'm finally feeling like I'm turning the corner. I'm going from, I knew it was a growing pains time where I was having 6 3-putts around, stuff like that, where I'm starting to get that down to maybe 2, 3 putts around. Yeah. And I want to eliminate them back again, because I used to really pride myself on my putting, but I knew I had to make this change because I had to make that improvement. And I'm working through it, and it's really working out. I'm getting there. So that's big stuff. All right. Before we wrap it up, once again, I want to thank our sponsor. So USGA, golf and life, they're always reminding us, how do you fit one into the other? Well, it's pretty easy. Just play 9. 9-hole golf is time friendly and unwind friendly. It's after work friendly, and there's still time to pick up the kids friendly. You can even post your 9-hole score, and it counts every time. There's a lot to love about golf, and when there's less time, the USGA says play 9. Learn more about options to play in your area by going to usga.org/play9 today. How's your short game? All right, Mike, maybe me and you can squeeze in 9 holes somewhere in the next couple
I hope so, but
days.
In the meantime, let's go to sleep. I think I have to meet you at 6:30 tomorrow morning. I'll have the cold brews and and I just want to warn you, I do have to bring a Tupperware of egg whites and some kind of meat, so I'm going to eat it in your car probably like 7 in the morning.
Because they're not going to let you in there with that.
No, I know. So I'm just warning you now.
I'm just picturing you getting thrown out because you're chewing in Rory's backswing or something. You hear that Tupperware pop. And It's like, there's Mike. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Rory.
Guy's got to fuel up.
Yep.
So anyway, all right, cool. So I will meet you there, and we're going to head down. For everybody who wants to get to the show notes for what we talked about today, as always, you can go to golficity.com/episode 183. Check that out, and we'll see everybody again next week.